Afternoon. My name is Loxie Farah. I'm the Director of Thematic Campaigns and Partnerships with ITVS. I'm happy to see all of your faces. I firstly want to give a very special thanks to the Geena Davis Institute and the Fiki Flow ladies for this wonderful partnership. Since the launch of the Millennium Development Goals in 2000, the world has seen significant changes in the lives of women and girls. Yet, a new era of media and communications and data and storytelling has brought us closer than ever to the reality of persisting gender inequality, child marriage, gender-based violence, and reproductive health challenges, among other issues. You've heard the research data now from Dr. Heldman. Big data has come a long way. It's changed the way we work and shapes the decisions we make. There are real people behind these data sets and numbers. And from here comes the job of the storyteller. Today's speed, reach, and potential for a story to inspire action, to connect people, to source real data about impact is truly revolutionary. And it makes the stories and the storytellers count more than ever. ITVS's Women and Girls Lead Global project brings those stories to audiences worldwide. Over 25 years, ITVS has been helping filmmakers tell the stories that no one else is telling. Stories that move beyond entertainment, that have the capacity to activate positive social change. Women and Girls Lead Global was born in partnership with ITVS, the Ford Foundation, and USAID. Starting in 2013, we created a series from the best existing films about women and girls and brought those films to audiences in 8 different countries through television and live screenings and working with broadcasters and NGO partners on the ground to focus on engagement on a single issue in each country. Child marriage in Bangladesh is an example, teen pregnancy in Peru, women's leadership in Kenya, and gender-based violence issues in Jordan and here in India. My esteemed colleague, Kimberly Sevcik, she's the Director of International Engagement for Women and Girls Lead Global, is here. You probably spoke with her during the lunch. And my other colleague, Abhishek, who you'll meet in the upcoming panel, will tell you more about our work in India. The first panel for today is Media and Social Impact, using film as a tool to promote gender equality. You'll hear from a panel of experts discussing today's story of women and girls in India and the way these narratives affect continuing efforts to achieve gender equality. I'm excited to introduce to you Dr. Rebecca Reichman-Tavares, UN Women Representative of the Multi-Country Office for India, Bhutan, Maldives, and Sri Lanka. Previously, Dr. Tavares was representative for Brazil and regional program director of UN Women's Brazil and Southern Cone Office. A native Southern Californian like myself,
ये एक ऐसा इवेंट है जहां फिल्मों और कहानियों के ज़रिए हम अपनी औरतों की दृष्टि हमारे मुल्क के सामने पेश करें इसके लिए ये एक ऐसा इवेंट ऑर्गेनाइज किया गया है। सिनेमा एक बहुत ही इफ़ेक्टिव माध्यम रहा है जिसके ज़रिए हमने अक्सर हमारी औरतों की कहानियाँ कही हैं, जहाँ पर हमने उनके जहन को टटोला है, उनके भय को छुआ है और उनकी आशाओं को भी जाना है। और आज की तारीख में इस बदलते हुए दौर में हिंदुस्तान को इस बात की समझ हो गई है कि कोई भी मुल्क जिसमें उसकी 50% जो है पॉपुलेशन अगर कदम से कदम मिला के साथ नहीं चलती तो वो तरक्की जिसके सपने हमने देखे वो नामुमकिन है। तो ये फेस्टिवल उसको सेलिब्रेट करता है और उसका एक जश्न है यहाँ पर आज।
सर, जिस तरीके से आजकल वुमेन्स को दिखाया जाता है फिल्म्स में और भी किसी तरह, उसके बारे में सर क्या कहना चाहेंगे?
देखिए, अलग अलग मुख्तलिफ़ किस्म की सोच है। कुछ लोगों को लगता है कि एक किस्म के कपड़े पहनना इसका मतलब ये है औरतों का अपमान करना है, मगर औरतें खुद अपनी मर्ज़ी से अगर किसी किस्म के वस्त्र पहनना चाहें तो उन्हें पूरी तरह आज़ादी है। न ही हमें किसे मजबूर करना चाहिए कि वो स्विम सूट पहने, न ही हमें किसी को मजबूर करना चाहिए कि वो घूंघट में रहे। वो उसकी अपनी पर्सनल सोच पे डिपेंड करता है। मगर हाँ, सिनेमा में कुछ इस किस्म के विवाद हम सालों से सुनते आए हैं कि सिनेमा ने औरतों के साथ में वो व्यवहार नहीं किया है, उन्हें ऑब्जेक्टिफाई किया है। ये कुछ हद तक सच है, मगर ये भी तो सच है कि जहाँ पर ऐसा हुआ है तो वहाँ पर अर्थ जैसी और ज़ख्म जैसी और डैडी जैसी फिल्में भी तो बनी हैं।
सर, तो आपको लगता है कि मतलब जिस तरीके से आज के डे में वुमेन्स को पोर्ट्रेट किया जा रहा है, इसका कुछ गलत असर पड़ रहा है आज के ऑडियंस में?
नहीं, मुझे लगता है कि डिजिटल एज में आने के बाद में विश्व में सारा कंटेंट जो विश्व प्रोड्यूस करता है वो आज आपकी उंगलियों पे है। तो सिनेमा के माध्यम से ऐसा कुछ नहीं हो रहा है जो इतना शॉकिंग है, जो इतना चौंका देने वाला है।
सर, पहले के टाइम से अगर देखा जाए कि पहले का जो स्टोरी टेलिंग तरीका जो होता था और आज के टाइम का जो तरीका, उसमें कितना असर, किस हद तक फ़र्क है?
अलग अलग फिल्म के अलग अलग अंदाज होते हैं कहने के। सिटी लाइट जो हम बनाते हैं तो उसमें हम एक अलग अंदाज अपनाते हैं, और जब हम लव गेम्स बनाते हैं तो वो अलग किस्म की फ़िल्म बनाती है। दोनों की ऑडियंस अलग होती है, दोनों की रेटिंग्स अलग होती हैं, दोनों जो है मुख्तलिफ़ किस्म की ऑडियंस को छूने की कोशिश करती है।
सर, जैसे कि आलिया की मूवी आने वाली है कि कपूर एंड सन्स वाली, सर उसके लिए क्या कहना चाहेंगे आप?
मैंने ट्रेलर देखा, मुझे इंतहा खुशी हुई कि इतना अच्छा एक ट्रेलर बनाया उन्होंने और सारे के सारे कलाकार उसमें कमाल के नज़र आए। और हाँ, आलिया तो उसमें बहुत ही शानदार मुझे लगी। मैं इंतज़ार कर रहा हूँ उस फिल्म की रिलीज़ होने की। थैंक यू।
The explosion of graffiti all over the world in the 80s and 90s, the countercultural movement had started, Europe for certain, America a little bits. And there they were asked questions about a graffiti competition on the perils of tobacco. The anti-smoking lobby, whatever you call it, from the government, raised the price of cigarettes and used all the money they got from the raise of the prices on a multimedia campaign. So wherever you looked, you were told that this is going to kill you, or that this is uncool, or that this is going to make you die very quickly so you won't be able to do the things you do, or look at these famous people, they don't smoke. My point is this: if indeed so much was laid in store by what films show, then we'd have a whole generation of lecherous men raping women in various five-star hotels in the 70s. But if I turn on and tell you, and this is the insidiousness of the argument, we have to stop showing smoking in movies, look how the incidence of smoking has risen, you would say, yeah, we have to. But then I can say, we have to stop showing motorcycle riding in movies. Look how the incident of fatal head injuries through motorcycle accidents happen, and you would say, my God, yes, we have to. And then I would say, if you look at the statistics of all the people whose eyeballs have fallen out because people hit them hard from behind, they've risen. You can't show that in movies. What are you going to have? That research that says we should not show sex, we should not show violence, And there's a lot of baloney. Of course we have to show sex, and of course we have to show violence, because that's life. What you take out of it is what matters. Do you glorify rape? Do you glorify murder? That's what you take out of it. The rest of it is life and creativity. So, I just wanted to test the very thesis of why we're sitting here. And I want to say that, please understand that I'm not for a second defending cinema. Indian cinema is misogynistic in its majority. Indian cinema reflects patriarchal, conservative, orthodox attitudes in its majority. Indian cinema is narrow-minded and disrespectful towards women in majority. I fully accept that. I'm just saying, understand, if you want to solve a problem, it cannot be done by beating one side of the 360 degree. You have to approach it from all sides. Don't make one this. And the reason we do this is because it's easy. The rest of it is damn difficult. Spending money, the government spending all its money on an anti-smoking campaign, going to schools, relentlessly for 25 years. Finally, today, the incidence of smoking in LA has reduced by 25% only. If it was 14%, it's come down to 8.6%. You get my point. So it's a really tough, long battle. But this is the only way to fight it. That's my first point. If I may, I hope you guys don't mind. The second is, now that I'm going to wear my NGO hat and join in with Abhijit as to, you asked Rebecca, how do we get men involved in this? So I have been propagating 5 things that I believe are the ways to get men involved. The first, I'm going to, Abhijit, I haven't heard him say this before, I'm glad he did, because I've been saying this a long time. The secondary victims of violence towards women is the anguished grandfather, the even ashamed grandson, the puzzled son, and the husband who refuses to go to the workplace anymore. These are men in pain. Who is reaching out to these men to make them explain so that they become warriors in their villages and say, nobody else's sister, nobody else's daughter. It's easy. People will respond for a call to change if they can be helped. My mother died of cancer, and you come to me and say, listen, we heard your sister might have a very high chance of getting it. Here's how to prevent it. Wouldn't I join that fight? So it's so easy. You approach the men in pain, and you heal them. So this is an initiative that I've just started talking, evolving, because it's really, really difficult. You just can't walk in and say, hi, Mr. Rapist grandfather, let me counsel you. I know I'm trivializing it, but I don't mean to. It's a deep process. You're approaching 50 years of patriarchy. God knows what kind of conditioning you're going to be approaching. It might backfire. But the attempt, if there has to be on any segment of the male population in this country, has to start here. This is the first susceptible, as in on the outer reaches, the magnet of what we are saying. These are the first men we can reach out to. But I'll make it very quick. My first point was raise our boys better, not by telling them anything. It's too late. You have to show them. If a boy walks into a VT railway station and his mother is walking 2 steps behind his father when they're going to catch the Rajdhani to Delhi, you can be assured that when he gets married, his wife will walk 2 steps behind him. Ask yourselves this question. When your kids have a question about, should I go to Dartmouth for architecture, or should I go to Carnegie Mellon for strategic studies, who do they go to? And what do I wear for my cousin's wedding? Do I have to wear the sherwani or the kurta or what? Who do they go to? And the answer will be staring at you in the face. So the first is for us to put a mirror against ourselves and say, how patriarchal are we, women included? How many of us have completely bought into this paradigm that this compartment, speak to your mother about this, speak to dad about this. I came from a family where my mother smoked, drank, and never entered the kitchen. Oh my God, what are you talking about? You know, poor you. Who made you a good Indian boy, finally then? And my father cooked. And my father made the tiffin box for lunch every day. And my father gave us oil massages on Sunday. And my father used to play with us, on the bed for 3 or 4 hours after he came back from work. And my mom would like, dude, just give me one hug and that's enough for the evening. And that's how I grew up. And it's possible, therefore. It's completely possible. But you have to first not raise the boys, you have to raise us. We have to say it's okay. It's okay to love, to touch, to question, to just be susceptible to work, to cook, to do all the things that you're not supposed to do. We have to start there. You cannot start with your kids. You have to do it so that you don't have to say anything after that. They will follow suit. Rebecca, I was at my friend's place for lunch when I was a teenager, and his mother went into the kitchen to cook. And I said, is your father ill? I'm not joking. I said, is your father ill? He said, no, he's gone to work. Oh, he works, poor guy. So your mother does the great stuff, she actually does the cooking and stuff. It's like, dude, I mean, it's just, what's going on here? That's how I was. I realized very soon that the world outside was different. Now, yes, it's important to be macho and machismo. We've heard all this stuff. It's important amongst men, mardangi. Let's say that it takes us a century to dissolve the need for men to be macho. But in these 99 years, what can we do? Well, we can redefine what it means to be macho. We can say, if you play with guns, that's for sissies. I know I'm using the wrong words, but you get what I mean. If you play with guns, that's for sissies. If you treat a girl equal as you, you're a tough guy. You're tough. And it's okay to cry because Cristiano Ronaldo does it all the time. And he's a bloody good footballer, right? Rafael Nadal does it all the time. It's things like that. So you can slowly redefine in our own subversive way what it means to be macho.
Yeah.
So
Rahul,
and finally,
I think we've got to move on because we want to
Okay.
leave some time, but thank
Sorry.
you so much, and I really appreciate that you've introduced a lot of complexity. Thank you. I know there will be many people who will want to ask questions from the audience, and we want to make sure we have plenty of time for that. Purana, please tell us about the work of the YES Foundation with women and girls empowerment, and to what degree is YES working also with media and entertainment and images to empower girls and women?
Like the panel mentioned, when you can't really be instructional or tell people what to do when it comes to gender equity. It has to be, we realize that it has to be experiential. So what we did is, we decided that we wanted to work with the youth of the country because we have some 750 million youth in India. And we realized with the youth, as most people said here, it has to be a challenge, it has to be experiential. So we initiated a 101-hour social filmmaking challenge, where at 6 o'clock in the morning you would get a social topic. And in 4 days you had to make the film. The emphasis is not so much on the film made, but what happens really when you actually meet, everyday heroes, when you interface with social issues, the emphasis is on the interchange because we realize that that's the only way it will work. And what we tried as an experiment where we had some 2,200 people participating in the first year, next year we had some 50,000 and in 2015, 500,000 youth participating. It's not so much about the numbers, but the stories of change. And women, empowerment and women's safety was one of the issues. And it was quite interesting to see as to how, there were so many interesting stories being told. And it was interesting to see that when men tackle this issue of women's safety and empowerment, it was always from the point of view of how they can save and help the woman through the films that we saw. And when women talked about it, they talked about it more from the point of, identity. And there were interesting films, right from this woman who was teased at a bus stop. And then suddenly she put on some rings and showed that the Devi had come into her. and suddenly there were people around her who were worshipping her. And she was saying that, in our society, you need to respect all women and not only a woman as a goddess. And interesting films, right from, where there was a molestation happening in a bus, and every person who was entering the bus took on a blindfold and put it on and just sat there. And suddenly one person couldn't bear it any longer, and he just took it off, and then the movement started. So we did see a lot of inner change that took place, and not only on women issues, on various things, right, from animals to senior citizens. We saw like a whole wave of responsible citizenship. And what we have done is we have instituted a fund where we are in a way giving grants and promoting the work that has been done. One of our filmmakers, she did a film on the missing girls, and after she made the film, she started a campaign which is now across the country, where she's bringing to light as to how every 8 minutes there's a girl missing. And it's a very simple campaign where she emails you the stencils, and you just, stencil on the wall and mention the name so that people are more aware of the number of girls missing. She even initiated, using her film that she made for Yes, I'm the Change, she did a crowdfunding campaign, and she got some 18 lakh rupees, which she's working with the NGO that's working on trafficking. So there's a whole movement of change. What we do is, with the thousands of films that we have, they are open source for any non-profit to use. So any of you would like to use the films to promote your causes, you're most welcome to put your logo and to use it. We also take the films and we go to colleges. Last year, in 2015, we went to 3,000 colleges to highlight about responsible consumption of media. Because it's not only about banning stuff, it's about what you consume, and not to get, swayed by a particular way of, looking at things, be it caste or otherwise, and looking at gender sensitivity, and civic issues. So we are working on that. We are the social development arm of Yes Bank, and we have the privilege of being a startup. So it's a beginning for us, and we are hoping to do a lot more work in this area of using films for social change. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Purana, and I know we'll hear more during the question and answer session. So we'd like to open it up. I know that the panelists in your minds have provoked lots and lots of questions, and I do want to encourage those of you who ask a question or would like to make a comment, please keep it brief, because we have a large group here. We want everyone to have an opportunity to speak that would like to, as well as have the feedback from the panelists. I'd like to open the question and answer session by calling on Mr. Kiran Shantaram, who is with us today. And over to you, sir.
Namaskar, good evening to all of you. And this is a great moment for me. In the beginning, they say ki ladies, 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 but there are some gentlemen are also here. So all the welcome to all of you. Sir, ma'am, I just wanted to say the film can make a great impact on the life of the people. And as Rahul said, that as the Indian cinema, of course, there are people who are making a good cinema on a woman's. I'll give you the example of my father. My father he was in the Indian film industry for more than 70 years. He died at the age of 89. He made more than 92 feature films. 55 he has directed. And out of 55 directed, he made 18 films on the woman. It's a great achievement for all of us. And there's one film called, I remember, I was also not born at that time, in 1933. He made a film called Amar Jyoti. All the actors, actresses were only ladies. And in that, Durga Khote was at that time, she was an artist. So the woman can make lot of changes. And for me, it is definitely, I say that woman is ultimately the mother of everybody. When mother gives the birth to the children, that last 9 months, she keeps it in her this thing. So mother is a very important thing. And once I asked my father at that time, Ki Papa, why you're making women's oriented films, woman this thing? He said, Kiran, don't give any importance to the mother. Look at your mother. My mother was Jayashri, she was an artist, and my sister was Rajeshri. So he said that ultimately the woman can play a very big role in the society. And for all of you, sir, ladies, and all the people here, all my father's films all the films are socially oriented films. He never made any films just for entertainment's sake. He made the films on a social issues, all the social issues of the different issues of the society. So for me, and I would like to make this thing because she said something about the films, she is encouraging the people. I would like to make an announcement on this venue, on this platform. The V. Shantaram Foundation, which I am the chairman of that, I would like to invite a film made by the different women. It's not necessarily she has to be director or anything. She can be a girl, anybody is like this. Make a film of from 3 minutes to 5 minutes. Send it to us. And if it is a nice issue film or nice social this thing, the V. Shantaram Foundation will give a prize, the award for that lady or for that woman. Because I think that the new generation is so talented. And for me, of course, I'm working in the film industry more than 52 years with my father right from Navrang. But the new generation has got a fantastic ideas on the social issues or any problem on the woman. So I would like to encourage that and bring it to the society, bring it to the front of the people. Okay, these are the problems, these are the women's. So I'd like to say that. Thank you very much. And I'd like to give that full this thing to the Geena Davis madam. Ma'am, you are doing a wonderful thing. And we are also here on a FICCI platform. We will be also doing good thing. And this is the first program of our FICCI. I like to congratulate everybody. And I would like to say, go ahead. Even you are a woman, all the men are with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shantaram. Can I ask for the house lights to come up, please, so that we can see the individuals who have questions? And we have time for one question, I'm sorry to say. Who has the most pressing question? Do I see anyone standing? Please stand. Yes, thank you. We have a microphone.
Good afternoon. Great
Thank you.
panel, thank you. I think he pretty much summed up what I wanted to say. It was, why aren't we talking about the mother? We said everything, but we haven't talked about the mother, who even today may be going through a lot of things, but every rapist has a mother, and the mother has a lot to do in the upbringing, especially in a patriarchal society. Why and how do we empower this mother, who may have many circumstances, to actually rise and not create a rapist? What can we do to provide her the tools and understanding that she can create a better son? And I'd love to hear the last 2 points.
So we can, each panelist has 1 minute to respond? Yes? 1 minute each. Abhishek. Or do you want to start with Purana? Okay, Purana. Thank you.
So one thought is, we're working with Breakthrough also for mothers to tell their sons about sexual harassment. And basically through films to highlight as to how they have been harassed and what pain they have gone through. So to kind of tell their sons about it. So just one thought.
Thank you. Rahul, can you squeeze your last 2 points?
Oh, my last point was institutions. There's the excuse that, gender biases are everywhere, misogyny is everywhere in society, so it will be in the justice system, it will be in the police, it will be in these educational institutions, doesn't hold. If you can change uniforms in 3 months of an entire force, then you can definitely enforce certain institutional codes in there and make sure that people follow them. So that was actually just the last point. But this, I'm not so sure about the question because there's a nature versus nurture thing that's happening in my head, and so I'm just going to pass it on to others.
Abhijit.
I mean, if you raise your boys properly, you're slimming down the probability is all I can say.
I think, I would say that let's not only focus on the rapes. The rapes have been important in highlighting the issue of discrimination, but the real point is discrimination. Even in a society with no rapes, if there is a lot of discrimination, I think that should be equally unacceptable. So the kind of gender social norms that we have accepted as being okay, I think that's where we have to challenge, and that has to be challenged by all of us.
Thank you. Archana.
हाँ, ये जो आप देख रहे हैं ग्लोबल सिम्पोजियम ऑन जेंडर इन मीडिया, ये एक बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग इनिशिएटिव है. जैसे यूएस में जीना डेविस इंस्टीट्यूट एक है, जीना डेविस जो हॉलीवुड एक्ट्रेस है, उन्होंने इंस्टीट्यूट शुरू किया था जिसमें वो रिसर्च करते हैं कि फिल्म्स में और टेलीविज़न में औरतों को किस तरह से रिप्रेजेंट किया जाता है, उसके बारे में बहुत डिटेल रिसर्च करते हैं और फिर उसको वो पब्लिक डोमेन में ला के दिखाते हैं. उसकी वजह से कई फिल्म मेकर्स ने अपनी फिल्में एक्चुअली में बदली हैं. बच्चों की फिल्मों में भी उन्होंने जिस तरह से औरतों का रिप्रेजेंटेशन होता है उसको बदला है, विमेन कैरेक्टर्स को और ज़्यादा इंटरेस्टिंग बनाया है. तो उसी तरह से इंडिया में ये लाया जा रहा है. अभी एक पायलट प्रोजेक्ट हुआ है जिसमें पता लगाया जा रहा है कि हम लोग अब औरतों को किस तरह से रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं. और एक्चुअली फिगर्स बहुत ही ख़राब हैं कि सिर्फ एक्ट्रेसेस के लिहाज से औरतें हैं, बट बिहाइंड द कैमरा बहुत कम औरतें हैं टेक्निकल फील्ड में या डायरेक्शन में. और जिस तरह से औरतों को रिप्रेजेंट भी किया जा रहा है बहुत ही स्टीरियोटिपिकल वे में किया जा रहा है, उनको काफ़ी ऑब्जेक्टिफाई किया जा रहा है. तो इसी सब के बारे में बातचीत भी होगी और करीब 30 फिल्में 3 दिन के लिए दिखाई जाएंगी. फिल्म्स डिवीज़न का जो ऑडिटोरियम है बॉम्बे में, वहाँ पर 30 फिल्म्स फ्रॉम ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड और इंडिया से भी जो फोकस कर रही हैं स्पेसिफिकली ऑन इश्यूज़ ऑफ वुमेन.
तो आप इसके बारे में क्या कहना चाहेंगे, जिस तरीके से आज के टाइम में वुमेन्स को टीवी में दिखाया जा रहा है, उसके बारे में क्या कहना चाहेंगे?
नहीं, देखिए, मेन स्ट्रीम का नाम ही है जो बहुत लोगों को खुश करने की कोशिश करता है ताकि इट्स कमर्शियली ड्रिवन. तो ऑब्वियसली जब आप बहुत लोगों को किसी चीज़ में खुश करने जाते हैं तो आप इन अ वे आपका जो स्टैंडर्ड होता है सोचने का या जो आप दिखाना चाह रहे हैं वो एक कम हो जाता है, बिकॉज आप सभी और हम सब सिमिलर हैं या लेकिन फिर भी अलग अलग हैं. तो इसीलिए जो जेंडर सेंसिटिविटी हमने देखी है जो ज़्यादातर अनफॉर्चुनेटली सिर्फ इंडिपेंडेंट सिनेमा में हुई है और कुछ हद तक अब मेन स्ट्रीम सिनेमा में आने लगी है. अब जैसे क्वीन जैसी फिल्म वो एक मेन स्ट्रीम फिल्म है लेकिन फिर भी बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग वे में औरतों के पहलुओं को बाहर लाती है. लेकिन हमें सिर्फ वुमेन ओरिएंटेड फिल्म की वेट करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. हम औरतों को जिस भी तरह से रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं इवन इन अ रेगुलर फिल्म, हम उनको अगर ऑल रियल दिखाएं और ज़्यादा डाइवर्स दिखाएं. हमारी सोसाइटी में कितनी तरह की औरतें हैं और कितने तरह के अलग अलग काम करती हैं, अलग अलग सोचती हैं, स्ट्रॉन्ग भी हैं, वल्नरेबल भी हैं. वो सारी जो डाइवर्सिटी ज़िंदगी में है, सोसाइटी में है, वो हमको फिल्म में देखने को नहीं मिलती है. क्योंकि ज़्यादातर फिल्मों में औरतों को खूबसूरत दिखना होता है, डांस करना होता है, थोड़ा सा रोना होता है, उस तरह की चीज़ें तक सीमित कर दिया जाता है.
तो आपको लगता है कि आज के टाइम में जो कंटेंट जिस हिसाब पे टीवी में दिखाया जा रहा है, इसका जो वुमेन्स पे जो कुछ ज़्यादा असर पड़ता है, पॉजिटिव और नेगेटिव में, क्या कहना चाहिए?
देखिए, टेलीविज़न तो अब सब घरों में आ गया है, इसीलिए ख़ास तौर से टीवी में जिस तरह का रिप्रेजेंटेशन होता है, मैं अनफॉर्चुनेटली नहीं देखती हूँ टीवी, इसलिए मुझे इतना ज़्यादा आइडिया नहीं है. पर कभी कभार अगर सर्व करते हुए भी हम जो देख लेते हैं एकदम पेंटेड फेसेस में एक दूसरे से लड़ रही हैं और बिल्कुल जेलस हो रही हैं, और हमें कब इसलिए ऐसी छवि बन जाती है कि औरत ही औरत की सबसे बड़ी दुश्मन है. उस तरह की छवि स्टीरियोटाइप को हम रीइंफोर्स करते जाते हैं इस तरह की चीज़ें दिखाकर. जबकि जो विमेन बॉन्डिंग भी होती है, औरत औरत के कितने काम में भी आती है, या देर आर लॉट ऑफ सपोर्टिव हस्बैंड्स ऑल्सो एंड सपोर्टिव पार्टनर्स, उनके रिश्ते में क्या चीज़ें हैं. तो ये सारी और हज़ारों कहानियाँ हैं. हम इतनी अपनी कहानियों को सीमित करके वही स्टीरियोटाइप चीज़ें क्यों दिखाते हैं? क्योंकि लोग भी तड़प रहे हैं एक्चुअली अलग अलग कहानियों के लिए. आप देखेंगे फिल्मों में भी एक्चुअली जो फिल्में ज़्यादा ज़्यादा चल रही हैं वो हैं जो अलग कहानियों को बाहर ला रही हैं. और आप सुन रहे हैं अभी घंटी बज गई है और मैं नेक्स्ट सेशन में बोल रही हूँ, तो मुझे जाना पड़ेगा. ओके, थैंक यू जी.
Is certainly passing the Bechdel test. And I'm glad that none of them have been introduced here because none of them actually need introduction. They're some of the finest filmmakers we have. Male, female, doesn't matter. There's one person, the only male representative, Bhatt Sahab. You should get 33% reservation in this particular discussion.
I'm delighted to be in an absolute minority.
Absolutely, minority of one. And so feel free to butt in at any point because we're giving you special status so far as this particular discussion is concerned. We're of course talking about the art of storytelling for effecting social change through films, of course. And of course, we're talking about empowerment of women and the girls. I'll start with questioning the basic premise here. And of course, it should have been gents first, but I'll go with the ladies, Nishta and Aruna Raji thereafter. Do you think films can even be used as a tool or medium to effect social change? And if so, how has it panned out, particularly in your careers?
Or, yeah, I think it can be used, but you know, the audience watching something happening on the screen, you know, there's a complete suspension of disbelief, and people do get impacted. But the question is, how long would that last? Some things last for a long time, and other things don't last for that long, but it certainly, I think, provokes people to think. If I have to give you a couple of examples, right. You know, in the 70s and 80s, I mean, there were a lot of Bollywood films in which, you know, what you would call, eve teasing and stalking was quite common. The hero went after the heroine, and he did all kinds of things, teased her and pestered her, and finally till he got her. And of course, it worked out because there was romance and songs and everything else. But then later on today, that is recognized as sexual harassment. Because what happened, I think it was a wave when boys thought it was a great idea to tease girls, just like in the movies. You know, comments and going after them and stalking them and all kinds of things. Because as women, we've all experienced that. And it was really increased in the 70s and 80s when these films were coming out. I'll give you another example. In 90, I made a film called Rihai. Now, this film was about the repressed sexuality of women. And it was, you know, considered very anti-men. And in the last reel, we do distinguish what is manhood about, what is manhood. So we had our own definition of manhood. And what happens is the heroine, Hema Malini, is unfaithful. And the man comes back and she wants her to abort the child if he can accept her. And she says, no, it's my child and it's not yours. And the village wants to ostracize her from the community. And they have a, you know, panchayat, etc., etc. And eventually she remains. And in the panchayat, initially the women are not supporting this Hema Malini's character, and gradually they all begin to support each. They say, if she goes, we all go. Now that was a very difficult climax, and I was really afraid of how that would be taken. Now I'll tell you what happened in Delhi, in a place like Connaught Place, that main plaza. I went to watch the movie because I would keep watching movies, my own movies with the audience, just to know how they're reacting. And in that panchayat scene, every time a woman accused the man of something, and there were old men marrying little girls, and then there were double standards, and the men were in the red light area, and the women were like, in the village, and riot, all kinds of situations were expressed by the women, angrily upset. And the men were clapping. Now, this was a very strange phenomenon. I said, why are they clapping? It's so against them. And then I realized in the darkness of the theater, it wasn't man, woman. It was fighting for the underdog. And when they realized that the women were the underdogs, really, in that God-forsaken village with no men, the women dealing with fire and flood, whatever problems there were. And the men could actually empathize at that moment. And for me, it was a revelation. So it is possible to make a little dent or to influence in a bigger way. I think how people react to whatever issues are in society. So films are effective and films are a good tool, but then we have to also see that how far we can take it beyond that.
Sure, but you're giving an instance, for instance, of a theater in Delhi. Nishta, you made a film which is set in rural part of India, your documentary, Gulabi Gang. What kind of an impact could a film of your nature have on audiences who live in those parts? Or are you necessarily making a film to an audience that is already slightly evolved because they will necessarily come in to a documentary film knowing all those issues anyway?
I don't have a target audience in mind because I cannot, it's impossible to get into the heads of millions of people out there. So I try to make a film that interests me. But then I think of a few things. Like I decided, few years ago, I decided that I'm going to be making films in Hindi so that I can reach a huge population which may not be able to read. And a decision I made like 6-7 years ago, and that came in very handy when I made the film Gulabi Gang. I knew that that it should be a film which should be watched by anyone, whether they're sitting in the US or Norway or in Bundelkhand or in any part.
But is there any particular instance from your film that you could immediately directly correlate as an impact?
Yes, of course. I mean, I've been, and this has also been a film which is in part of outreach, and I haven't attended those screenings, but I've attended, like numerous screenings in rural areas, in urban areas, and immediately, I mean, Gulabi Gang has a different kind. It's not like, oh, immediately we want to go and beat up the men, or it's not like not that sort of a thing. But another film of mine, like Lakshmi and Me, which has an immediate impact, which is really looking at the life of a domestic worker from the point of view of as an employer and as a filmmaker. And that story is such a common story. It's a story of everybody's home, and that film immediately has an impact. And I haven't met anyone who hasn't changed. Like I've seen the change in my own friends, family, whoever has seen that film. So there are films that have immediate impact. And it's not a film with message. We're just looking at this girl's life. And she visits my house, and I'm looking at her house, and her life over a period of 2 years. But something about the story is it's a story which is happening in every household, so it has an immediate impact. Gulabi Gang has a different kind of impact, but there is no question that, I never doubt that these films don't make a dent. There's a huge impact.
Right. Bhatt Sahab, at the end of the day, so far as audiences are concerned, they see film, or the purpose of film, or the primary purpose of film, to entertain first. You work in the entertainment industry, you're right on top so far as entertaining people is concerned. How much or how hard is it to reconcile yourself as a filmmaker to entertain first, but also to use film as a tool for social change? Is that too strong a mantle to carry?
Well, yes, we belong to we are in the business of entertainment. It's a business. The investor here is interested in doubling his investment. and he uses your skills as a storyteller to make sure that at least you do not lose that investment. Or somebody wants to get some brownie points of being called, somebody who is engineering having social impact. So he doesn't mind making that kind of huge investment. But there's something that you seek at the end of the road by indulging in that activity of making that movie, yes. So I feel, look, this has been the kind of a dilemma that has torn our insides from the time we joined the movies, whether we should use the skills that we have to increase your bank balance or also do something which is significant, which gives you a feeling of well-being that you have perhaps contributed and you're not being apathetic to the woes of the people around you. So one has walked on both sides. But I would, you may call me cynical, but if books and movies could change people, this world would become a paradise. I asked the Dalai Lama once, 2,500 years ago, the man called Gautama Buddha said, be a light unto yourself. Love thy neighbor as thyself, said gentle Jesus.
Right.
But the fact is that every part of the world is soaked by man's blood. So has the narrative of Jesus or Buddha impacted anything inside us? Or they were aberrations, and their narratives are something which we use to live off. I mean, he did not give me a very convincing answer. And even I feel that while I would like to believe that a movie...
What was his answer?